Who should you pull? Kain or Rosa? Or maybe neither? That's the topic for this week's Should You Pull. In this video, we're going to talk about Kain and Rosa, and I'm actually going to save the Demon Wall, VC, and Esper for another video. So if you wanted to get information on that, that is coming, and I will address how it works with all of these Final Fantasy IV characters as well. But otherwise, just let me know if you prefer to have like a super long banner video with everything included, or if you prefer to have it split up a little bit, because it was kind of daunting thinking about how long this video would be if I included the vision card as well. Before we get into the stats, let's just talk about where I get them from, which is wordthevisionscalc.com. It's an awesome website, and thank you so much for all your content. Okay, Kain, he is a pretty cool unit, definitely the most hyped unit for Final Fantasy IV, and I can see why. You know, it's the best Final Fantasy. He's a Dragoon, which is one of the coolest Final Fantasy jobs of all time, and he gets a lot of really great stuff in his kit. So he has 3 move, 4 jump, and you can see that all the Dragoons get that 4 jump, and that's huge on a lot of maps. He has a Baron Dragoon main job, it's a unique job, and then Viking and Paladin subs, and then all the typical equipment you would expect from a Dragoon. His stats are great across the board for the most part. HP is good, AP is good, attack is high, magic doesn't matter, crit rate is he has some. Dexterity, it's lower than you'd like to see, but then luck is high, and then he actually gets more luck from his board, and then agility is okay. It's not terrible, but it's not that good. And then 4 defense from the Paladin sub. Looking at his abilities here, or sorry, his resistances, he gets 5% resistance to everything except for magic, which he's weak to. So that's fine, like he's not super strong against everything, but he's also just not going to be like weak randomly to strike or something. So if you're going into physical matchups, you can raise his resistances a bit, and that will be nice. And then he is weak to the magic though. And I had a commenter shout out Christmas Mastery, who knows, we might get her during this next Christmas season, and she has 20% magic resistance, and she's a Dragoon as well. So if you are looking for a Dragoon to specifically fit into your formation, keep in mind that, you know, that is an option, and then that's cool to have a Dragoon that is strong against magic. But then looking at his status element resistances, the don't move is welcome, and then the rest are whatever. And then for his TMR, and I actually don't have the stats here, but it's a helmet, so I'm gonna have to like paste that over on the video. It's a helmet. It has an ability that gives haste to himself for 3 turns, and then 1 move for 3 turns, and it's an okay cost TP skill. So that is a really cool ability, and the helmet's pretty standard in terms of stats and stuff. So I apologize for not having that ready on the slide. And then the master ability, defense penetration 20% for self and accuracy for self. That's really good. Like having the defense penetration just on the unit, no matter what else he's doing, is just incredibly important, and that instantly gives him some staying power for months to come. And then accuracy is never a bad thing. Okay, so taking a look at his support abilities, he gets Viking lore, so some attack boost and HP boost there. Pride of the Dragoons is a better self-sacrifice. You get the same attack boost, but instead of losing a bunch of resistances, you just lose 5 defense, so it doesn't actually make him weaker to magic, and it makes him a little bit weak, or it makes him not as weak as all those resistances would have. So that's just an incredible skill, and you definitely want to equip that. And then Holy Knight's protection can make him a little more tanky, and unyielding protection can give him some missile resistance, which is such a cool thing to just have. I definitely like that Viking skill. You're not always going to have it on, but to be honest, I'm going to stack all the attack here, so Viking lore and Pride of the Dragoons all the way. And then for his counters, he gets his own counter that's pretty standard, and I think that it's a good counter. It's better than Fighting Spirit, which heals you a bit and gives you Berserk. And I mean, I like Paladin's Guard. It's only physical damage, so take that into account in your matchups, but definitely some good options here. All right, let's take a look at some skills. So the main job, you get Piercing Lance, which is your typical low AP, small damage skill, but man, it gets decreased pierce resistance. That's insane. I love that. So you have defense piercing and pierce resistance decrease. Amazing. Then you get Leave it to me. And that is your self buff. You get agility and attack. Looks real good. Piercing Brain sounds awful. It's a big AoE though on all sides of them. Kind of like a hazard spin, but lance range, and it can do some medium damage, and then you can confuse everybody, which is actually pretty interesting. Dragon Raid is his only jump, which is kind of surprising, and it's very powerful and decreases the amount of healing that person can take and dole out to others, but if you hit a healer with this, I'm assuming they're dead. And then Blood Lance is a kind of like a self-heal pierce attack. It's cool. And then sub, you get 2 more attacks. You get Swipe Spear, which is front three. It's like all the Night Breaks AoE, and then Hazard Thrust, which consumes your own HP, but it gives you Light Killer, and it can also pierce. So it's a good skill as well. So this is definitely an interesting sub job kit. However, he has such a cool Paladin kit because of Immortal Spirit that I don't know if you're going to use this one. But then Viking, we have to talk about that first. So Viking, I always like Viking, but all the units that get Viking have like a better main job or other sub jobs, so you don't always use the Viking sub. But it has good stuff, like Launch is really cool, a chance to crit increase. Warcry, increase your bravery. So increasing your bravery, like that's going to give you a little bit more damage and a higher chance of your reactions proccing and stuff like that. So really cool to have more bravery. Rebellious Spirit is a great self buff. So overall though, I just don't think you're going to use this because his main kit is so much better. And then you want to have these Paladin skills. So Blade Bash, that's giving you an extra damage attack or damage type. You're going to use slash attack there. And then you can turn off Divine Grace because it's garbage. You can turn off Saintly Healing because you don't want it. But then you have Sentinel, which is really, really solid. It's one of the best skills to approach with. And then Immortal Spirit, 2,000% chance, or sorry, 200% chance to ignore fatal damage. Yeah, so again, you can run in once you use this and you'll be able to survive a hit and then go hog wild on your opponent, just taking them out, which is nice. Taunting Blade is also a really, really strong attack. I don't know if you want to use this. It's very expensive if you're even going to get a chance to use this. But if you do want him to take away some attention from your opponent, and then he has the Mortal Spirit, then that's great, and then he'll come back and your other units will close in or whatever. That's really cool as well. And the other thing about having Immortal Spirit is it's 29 TP. It's a good TP skill to generate AP as well. So I see Paladin sub, and I mean, we know in Japan that everyone uses Paladin sub, being the choice for Kain. His Limit Burst is very cool. So it's a powerful attack, and it has a chance to inflict slow. And if you upgrade the Limit Break, then you will get more damage and more reduced speed for targets. And it's got like that cross AoE, so you can kind of see. I like this a lot. The AP cost is high. If you have bells, then you can use it probably. But I do like putting slow on your opponent. That could be a really, really big deal. So a very cool Limit Burst. Okay, so we'll do some comparisons for him, and I'm sure there's a lot of good comparisons, and I'm sure that all of you are going to tell me about the ones that I didn't do in the comments, so please enlighten me. But what I'm going to compare him to are the Pierce units that we're seeing people play right now. So Glaciella is the first one, and then Victora is the second one. And I know that there's units in the feature in Japan, and I will try to have one eye on feature units in Japan, but at the same time, I like to play in the now, and I want to compare units against what's available to me already, what I already have in my formation, and if I need it now, and a little bit in the future too for like planning for raids and stuff. But there's always a better unit, there's always going to be EX jobs and whatever. So if you're really worried about that kind of thing and you want me to tell you that there's, you know, this unit coming out in 3 months that you should save for instead of Kain, then you can tell yourself that, and I'm going to tell you why he's a cool unit that you could pull right now and have fun playing the game. So looking at the stat comparisons, they're very similar in a lot of ways. Their attack, their HP, their their luck. So there's a lot of similarities here. Even their like agility is in the same range. But the kits are very, very different. So Victoria gets way more jumps. She gets higher agility, and then she has the Ice Lance that can give her a bunch of firepower, which is really nice. Glaciella gets a lot of different piercing abilities. She gets sure hits and stuff, but then she also gets a ton of slash resistance. So she kind of fills a different role, but she's super weak to magic. Kain is going to be a unit that will really stay in the meta longer than a lot of units because he's strong against his weakness. He has the defense piercing, he has the pierce resistance, the whatever that first skill we talked about, and then he has the survivability. I think, at least personally, with his kind of like tame resistances, but then also the paladin skills. So I see him as not only a damage dealer, but more of a having more staying power than these other two units. Although I think all three of these units are insane. And the cool thing about the piercing units is that we don't have a lot of piercing resistance yet. So you could have all three of these and run all of them in a party together, and that would be really fun. So I don't really see you having Glaciella or Victoria as a reason not to pull for Kain, is what I'm getting at, I guess. And then one more thing we have to mention is that we're going to get the box event coming back, the Trials of Reckoning, and this Wind Spear is going to be a UR spear you can craft. And you can see, comparing it to the Ice Lance, which is the previous best in slot spear for our spear wielding units, that this UR spear has more attack on the assault version. It gives you at a +5, it gives you 5 extra pierce attack. So obviously this is really good. Victoria will still want the Ice Lance, I think, but the Wind Spear is going to be really good. Now I think Kain is going to be just fine with an Ice Lance if you are not big on the box event, if you're not able to farm a +5. But if you are able to farm a +5, then I think obviously this is going to be a really, really high priority for you. But I don't think it's the end of the world. Like, I think you could have a great Kain with an Ice Lance. Now we'll talk about Rosa, who is our other limited UR unit, and she is a Ice Element, 3 move, 1 jump, and she has a Baron White Mage main job, White Mage sub job, Black Mage sub job. So this is a really interesting combination, and she uses a bow, which is going to be really important to talk about during this video. Her stats, well, they're looking pretty good, and you can see like the attack and the magic, those are both high. Like someone that has super high attack and magic, that's kind of like Ramza, except she's got better magic than he does. The AP is something I need someone to confirm with me. So I couldn't find online if she was a red mage type unit that starts with half her AP, and then I watched a Cabbage channel PvP video with Rosa, and I tried to do the math in my head. I'm pretty sure she's a red mage AP starter, and that is incredibly important for pulling her. So please confirm that before you take my advice. But I'm 90% sure that's how she starts with AP. And then she has not great dexterity or luck, and her agility, while it looks kind of lower, she gets more from her board, so that's good. And she's also going to get spirit from her master ability, which we'll talk about in a sec. So overall, stats are looking good. Okay, so resistances, obviously weak to fire, good against wind, and then she's weak to slash, pierce, and strike, but strong against magic, and that's pretty standard for these caster types. She's strong against charm, which is really nice on a unit that you have high faith on, and then also disable, very cool. Her TMR is an accessory that gives you spirit and HP, crit avoid. That's like every caster accessory ever. So nothing new there, but this skill, it's pretty good. I mean, increase magic and attack, give yourself some AP, that's fine. She's gonna get more magic and some spirit from her master ability, and that's also very important for her to get that. So her magic is actually looking really good because she has Black Mage as well. So we'll talk more about that. Okay, support abilities. Earnest Love. It says male killer there. That's because I took it from the Japanese site, but it's actually been globally upgraded to include just human killer in general. So that is super important support ability. You have to use this support ability because human killer is going to work for her different attacks, her magic attacks, her projectile attacks, the ones that scale off of magic, the ones that scale off of attack, everything. So that is the most important support ability. She gets March of the Saints. Favor of Ice is going to upgrade a skill. I think that's also going to be really important, but depending on where you go with this, you might use the magic up level 1 instead, depending on the rule that you use her on. So she's looking really good so far. She's a caster that has pretty high magic. She gets magic up level 1 like a lot of casters do. So the major downside is that she doesn't start with 75% of her max AP, and that is a really big thing to consider. Her counters, so she gets Reflex, Regenerator, and Magic Counter, and you just use Reflex. It's the best counter ability in the game. Okay, now we've got her main skill set, and there's a lot of really important things to pay attention to here. So prayer is basically like cure, but better. It's got a cast time, and she's always going to have that, and she has good magic. So even if you use her as a physical attacker, that is going to be really nice for her to have that heal. Then she has Pure Prayer, which will nullify the Poison, Blind, Silence, Paralyze, Confusion, and Stop for allies, which is insane because Silence, Confusion, and Stop are all status ailments that we see in the meta today. She gets Holy on her main job, so 100% hit chance, a different element to chain. That's insane. Radiant Arrow, which can be upgraded. I forgot to change my text there. Decreases the ice resistance that happens before the hits, and then it does damage, and that can be upgraded to do quite a bit of damage. And then she has basically Sharpshoot, which is 100% hit chance. Now, the Radiant Arrow and the Sure Aim, or the Sharpshoot, those scale off of attack, her attack value. So if you want to do lots of damage with those, you need to have a bow that gives you a lot of attack value. And if you want to do lots of damage with Holy, well, that actually scales off of magic, and you're going to need something that has magic attack up and that gives you magic stat, whereas the other skills and her sub job as well, you need attack stat and projectile damage up. So she's split between two damage types, which is good, but you have to be able to support both of them or choose one of them. Her sub job here, it's going to have Silence Arrow, which I love, and then Hail Shower is an AoE. Both of these are weak abilities, but they have really cool applications. So White Mage is really standard. It's everything you're going to expect from a White Mage, except for no full life. But you have Curaga, that's really important. You have Raise and all the good stuff. So definitely something worth looking at. Okay, Black Mage, again, very standard. You're gonna get everything that you normally get, except you don't get Flare, so that's okay. I mean, I know Flare is really good, but you do get Blizzaga, you do get, you have Holy on your main job, so like you have lots of really good skills. This is also a really interesting sub job. When Final Fantasy IV was announced in Japan, we started to get little bits and pieces translated over in North America. And as that came through, people were saying things like, holy crap, Rosa has a special that is like Ayaka's, but it also gives AP. And I was like, what? It does what now? Oh, okay. That is amazing. That's going to be so cool. And then we immediately thought, well, Rosa might be the new Ayaka. She might totally replace Ayaka, who's been a unit that's been hard to replace in the meta. We found out that, you know, that's not actually the case. That's not what actually happened in Japan. But we will take a look at their two specials side by side so we can kind of compare why people thought that. So first of all, looking at Rosa's special, it has a huge heal and it increases the AP of the people that it hits, but it does not, neither of these things hit Rosa. They only hit the people she's targeting, and it has a pretty high AP cost. And we'll take a look at the AoE in a second here. Ayaka's limit burst is going to heal for the same amount, but it's also going to dispel stop. It's going to give you stop resistant, which is very relevant now. And then when we take a look at the ranges, You can see how different they are. So Ayaka can place her limit burst somewhere else, and she can reach people very, very far away from her, and she can place it on a spot that is one height higher or lower than her, and then the spread of the AoE is going to go 2 squares higher or lower than where it hits. So it's incredible. It's a really good AoE heal, whereas Rosa's is only going to hit the people around her and only if they're within 1 height of her. So that's really important to think about. Oh, sorry, I want to correct there. So Ayaka's limit burst can be cast to 2 heights up or down, but the AoE only reaches 1 height. So same as Rosa's, just to clarify there. So you can see how Ayaka's limit break it has a lot more application than Rosa's does. And the other thing to think about is Ayaka does primarily healing. She is constantly building up her AP stores. She's not casting that many spells, whereas Rosa is going to have a bunch of attacks. She does not generate AP in the same way that Ayaka does, and she's not going to start with the same amount of AP, so it's going to be much harder to use this special than it is for Ayaka to use hers. Alright, so we're going to make 2 sets of comparisons here. So the first one is going to be with other mages. So we've got Ayaka, who's a white mage, and then Medina, who's your black mage. And these are both Rosa sub-jobs. And you can see that their stats are very, very similar for the most part, but the starting AP is a huge, huge difference for the other 2 units. Rosa does get really high magic though. Now Medina gets another 30% from her master ability, and she gets the magic up level 1 as well. But Ayaka and Medina also get to equip staffs, and we have platinum rods that give 160 magic. Rosa does not have that option. She needs a bow that can give her a bunch of magic, and we are going to get one, but there is a catch. So before we talk about weapons, let's quickly look at another comparison. So Rosa also has pretty decent attack for someone that has so much magic, and we can compare that to other projectile URs. So for example, Frederica actually has less attack than Rosa does, and Lucia is only 1 higher than Rosa, but this does not take into account all of the passives, which we will look at. But overall, Rosa has objectively high attack for someone that also has a bunch of magic. That's actually a very, very cool design. But then these other 2 units, they have better agility, they have better dexterity, better luck, and some other skills that are going to help them out in the long run. So speaking of those skills, you can see that Frederica, she gets missile attack from her master ability, from her passives, and then from her different support abilities. And same thing with Lucia. She gets attack from her master ability, she gets attack from her job board, she gets missile attack from her abilities, and then a firing stance buff she can use in battle. All of these things are going to make Frederica and Lucia deal more damage, and Rosa, she's just going to get that human killer, which is good for her magic attacks and for her missile attacks, but she doesn't get all that projectile support and that attack support that these other units do get. And that's something that we have to take into account. And again, we have to think about weapons, because those other 2 gunners, they're going to get a Ras Al Ghathi, and they're going to get another 207 attack, and this isn't an ideal world. Rosa, if you wanted to build her an attack bow right now, we could give her the rune bow. She would still get the 15 missile attack, but the most attack we can build off of this is 124, so that is a massive drop off. So if you're thinking that Rosa's stats means that she's going to be comparable to those other 2 gunners as a projectile attacker, it's not going to be that simple. And then when we take a look at future bows, well, we're going to get this elven bow during this collab. And again, this is the box event. You can farm this. It's a UR bow though, and it's not built for attack. You can see it does get 104 attack, but then it gets 163 magic. So it's more comparable to a platinum rod, except instead of getting 15 magic attack, it gets 20 magic attack. So this bow is pretty insane, and it's going to be a must craft for Rosa, in my opinion. Whereas with Kain, I think you can get by without his UR spear. Obviously, it's going to be a huge deal to get it. It's going to be a big boost for him. I think he's still very viable with other spears. I think for Rosa to truly be a white mage, black mage, caster type unit, you're really, really going to want to farm this bow and get it as high as you possibly can. Later on, we are going to get another bow that is farmable, and we'll come back over and over, and this bow is going to be closer to that Rathel Gathi. So if you pull Rosa now and you're like, well, she doesn't have the bow for the attack, for the projectile weapon type thing. Well, she's going to get it eventually, and that's going to come when we get our sniper UR down the road. So again, this is like your little future warning that we are going to get another bow user that focuses on projectile attack and different things. So if you want to save for her instead of Rosa, then by all means go ahead. But that just means we're also going to get this bow that Rosa will be able to use that will bring her closer into the realm of being able to do damage with her projectile attacks. Okay, so that's it for the video, and I want to go over my final thoughts on whether or not you should actually pull these units. So Kain, I think it's a yes. I think he is super strong. His kit looks great. He has staying power. I really do think he's worth a pull. Rosa is a hard maybe. I think that she requires a lot more work than Kain does to make her viable. But I think in a world where you're farming the right equipment for her, I think that she could be an incredible caster. I think she could be a really solid projectile attacker that can heal as well, and that has these other applications, this really amazing special ability. Although her ranged attack means that she might not be next to your allies to be able to use her limit break. So I think that if you're going to go for Rosa, that you have to be prepared to put in the work in the box event. You have to be prepared to craft these different bows for her. But overall, she could be worth your while if you're willing to do that. Okay, that is going to be it for this video, and that was a marathon for me. I have a sore throat, and it's killing me right now. So I'm gonna get out of here. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below.